Okay, everyone, we're going to get started, and hopefully our panelists will be able to join us a little bit later. Okay, so hello, everyone, and welcome to the Careers in Marketing panel. My name is Joni, and I will be your moderator for today's session. This morning, we have exceptional guest speakers who are here to inform you on your career options, how to get promoted, and secure that first job after graduation. Before we get started, there are a few housekeeping items we would like to review. In case of an emergency, please evacuate through the nearest fire exit. Please turn off or mute your cell phones for the remainder of the session. And if anyone has laptops, please keep your laptops closed. We kindly ask that you remain seated throughout this entire panel. Please postpone all questions until the end of our panel discussion, as we will have an open and Q&A period. And finally, as many of you know, this is a Learning Passport eligible event. In order to keep things efficient, we ask that you complete your booklet page before retrieving your stamp at the end of this session. So to get things started, we're going to start with Glenn. Please introduce yourself, your position, and the company you work for.
Can everybody hear me okay? Get a thumbs up? All right. My name is Glenn McIsaac, and I work with Pacrim Hospitality, and I'm a regional sales manager with the company. Anything else you want me to add to that, or just straight introduction?
That's great for me if it works for
right.
you.
Perfect.
Kelly?
Hi, I'm Kelly Brown, and I'm a senior sales and editorial representative for Pearson Education Canada.
Thank you. And Lindsay?
I'm Lindsay Cross. I'm the brand and integrated marketing specialist here at Mount St. Vincent University.
Thank you. For our next question, we're going to start with Kelly. How did you end up where you are today? Did you originally study marketing, and was this a part of your career plan?
That is a loaded question. I have a Bachelor of Arts degree with a major in English, so I do not have a business background at all, but yet that is what my career has been for the past 17 years. I've always had a passion for sales and marketing, and started a long time ago when I used to work in retail, and then I worked for a finance company, and that was a really interesting learning experience. But I also substitute taught for 2 years as a high school English teacher. And teaching has always been one of my passions, but I tried for many years to get into the BED programs back in my day, and it was very competitive. And I ended up falling into this position through a recruiting agency. So I went to a recruiter here in Halifax, and 17 years ago, I ended up working for Pearson as a school representative. So I sold K-12 resources at many, many different schools across the province. That developed into more of a passion for higher education, because I've always been interested in working with mature students, and it just landed. I just lucked out and ended up getting a role as a rep with higher ed, and that was back in, 1999, 2000, and I've been doing that ever since. So, did I study marketing? No. Do I use marketing every day in my job? Yes. What I do is, it's interesting, because as a sales rep, I actually market a brand, and I market to not my end user, you guys. We try to, but we actually market to the professors, and in the hopes that what we have to offer and our tools that we provide are going to help you be successful in your education here at school.
Perfect. Thank you. And Lindsay?
I did not study marketing. A loaded question indeed. So I actually have an undergraduate degree in political science from Acadia University. I graduated in 2005. In my final year, I was supposed to go to law school, and somehow I ended up in public relations. So I was introduced to public relations in 2005 by a mentor from my hometown in Cape Breton. And she said, I really think that your experience, some of the summer jobs you've had, I really think you should look into this. So I did. I went to NSCC, and I did the advanced diploma in PR. And then after that, I've had a couple of positions, the first of which was a communications specialist in a company in Halifax, where I launched their corporate website and was responsible to pitch stories to industry publications. And then after that, I was an event producer for almost 4 years. So I worked at an event management company, like an agency here in the city. And we worked with government, corporate, nonprofit, clients and basically helped them build relationships with the various publics that mattered most to their organizations. And so through that, I really got to learn about branding and how an organization looks and feels and sounds really should be consistent, whether it's in print, online, at events, in person. And so after almost 4 years of working there, I found a job here at the Mount. So I work in Everestus as part of the communications, marketing, and student recruitment team. And my role here is around digital strategy, our marketing campaign strategy. So traditional, digital, and social media is where I live and breathe most days, as well as providing counsel to a lot of different departments and programs on campus. I'm also doing my master's degree here in PR, so I love the Mount and I love coming out and meeting students, but that's basically my shortened version of how I arrived in this seat today.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And Glenn?
My story is a little bit different than what some people straight out of high school going to university might be, because in about grade 11 I decided that I was going to go into animation school, and I did go to animation school and I did graduate, but in preparation to go to animation school in my last year, I was planning on having a couple extra off blocks at the end of the year, and it would allow me to have a little bit extra time to work on my portfolio. So I was told that I couldn't have that time because you're required to be in a certain number of classes. I ended up having to go into physics, and the entire time in that class I sat there and I worked on my portfolio. Now the teacher and I had this unspoken understanding, we'll say, and I ended up getting a 9 in that class as my final mark, and the comment on my report card, I guess you could say, was, "It was a pleasure having you in my class." Now, looking back at it, it probably didn't display a lot of foresight on my behalf, because ultimately I didn't stay in that field, but what it did give me was perspective. I ended up coming to the Mount as a mature student when I was about 21, and during the time that passed between when I finished my animation degree and when I came to the Mount, I did a lot of sales jobs through the summers, and I found that I was quite good at that. I don't know if it was partially the challenge or if it was the competition between people in the office, but I knew that there was an element missing in what I was doing in sales, so I knew that getting a degree would help me kind of fill out what I had learned previously, the experiences that I had in between finishing my animation degree and having some sales jobs. And so I ended up working in hospitality while I was doing my undergrad. I started working at the breakfast bar at the Holiday Inn Express in Bedford, which is just probably 5 minutes from here. So Monday to Friday, I would, I'd have class like normal, and weekends I would work. And as it went over time, I continued getting more responsibility, newer roles. And when I finished my undergrad, I continued working with the same company. I looked for roles of increasing responsibility. And ultimately, I knew that I wanted to do more still. So I've since started a master's, but in the interest of trying to get outside of what I know and what my surroundings had been, I took an internship in Atlanta working for IHG. IHG is probably not a company that a lot of people would be familiar with by name, but they are the parent company for Holiday Inn, Crowne Plaza, Staybridge, a number of other hotels. They have 9 brands internationally. So their North American headquarters is based in Atlanta. I spent 6 months there, and I could go into great detail about what the experiences were there, but overall it was a very worthwhile experience. I would highly encourage anybody to do something similar, particularly just getting outside of your comfort zone and doing something somewhere else. But one of the biggest takeaways for me, as somebody who's interested in marketing and branding and the roles that all of the things that I had done in my past, including sales and animation, the creative side, play in the world of branding and marketing, I had the opportunity to meet Larry Light. And Larry Light is the CMO, Chief Marketing Officer of IHG. And he just happened to take the role on when I was doing my internship. What's particularly interesting about Larry Light, and most people probably won't know him by name, but I guarantee you that everybody in this room has been affected by him. He's the guy that came up with the I'm Lovin' It campaign for McDonald's. So he's actually he was the chief marketing officer for McDonald's for a number of years. And when I was an intern at IHG, I reached out to him, and I just, there were a number of other interns there at the same time, and they said, "You're crazy, he's not going to respond." And I said, "Forget it, I'm just going to try." So I sent him an email. I didn't ask for his secretary, or I didn't try and go to somebody below him. I went directly to the guy, which is a huge life lesson. Go to the top and then let them filter you down. He took an hour of his time to sit down with me and talk about his experience. He's actually a marketing professor by trade, and ended up going into the corporate world because he had some successful publications, including Brand Revitalization, which is a really good book I would recommend everybody read. It's about 200 pages. It's like size 12 font too, so it's a joke. But anyway, he sat down and he took an hour of his time, and I'll never forget the conversation I had with him. Now I'm doing more within our company that's involved with the development side of hotels, and you wouldn't think that that would have a lot to do with marketing, branding, what have you, but I'm actually dealing with a lot of people at the higher levels of brand companies for different hotels around the world. And it's interesting having conversations with them, because I wouldn't think that marketing applies a lot to the development of a hotel, but it truly does. It's not all numbers. Now, finance is extremely important as well, but in the context of this conversation, marketing is still abundantly important. So that's how I got where I am. It's been an interesting road, but certainly loved it.
Thank you. Those are really some great tips too. I hope you guys were taking those notes down. So next we're going to start with Lindsay. If you had to do it over again, would you do anything differently?
No. I'm a firm believer that whatever journey you take to get where you're at, some of you may have previous experience, work experience, degrees, you may have come straight from high school. It's all part of the layering of your onion. It's part of your story. So where you are today is exactly the journey that led you to where you are. So I wouldn't do anything differently, although I would like to pick up on a tip that Glenn had said. And the one moment that I'll never forget was sitting in my dorm room in fourth year when I picked up the phone, near meltdown. I said, "I just wrote my LSAT, and I really don't know if this is what I want to do." And my mentor at the time, again, her name was Monique, and I had met her from my hometown, and she gave me some of the great advice. Why are you ignoring what has been in front of you for a long time? And sometimes having a mentor who can help pull you up to see things that you may not see for yourself is really important. So if I was to do one thing differently, I would try and find a mentor earlier, someone who could sit down with you and give you some advice, not tell you what to do, you know what to do, but ask you some questions that may make you think a little bit differently about where you're going and why you want to go there. So that's probably the one thing that I would do differently.
Perfect, thank you. And Kelly?
I agree with you. You're on a path, you're on a journey in life, and you don't know, there's careers out there that are going to be available to you 4 years from now that don't even exist today, that you don't even know are available to you until you get out into the workforce. I wish I had a business degree. I should have had one, because really that's where my passion is. But the arts degree that I have provided me the opportunity to teach and to learn from my students and to figure out that where my passion was still educating, but in a different format, not being in front of the students, but working with the tools to help provide you with your education. So I wouldn't do anything different. The advice I would give you is, use your friends. I mean, you all have really, really good friends that are going to tell you don't go out with that outfit on. Good Lord, please don't do that, because they're honest, they're brutally honest. And those are the friends you want, and they know your personality, they know your passion. And follow that passion, because it may be marketing, it may be business, it may be law, it could be sales, who knows. But I fell into this career, and 17 years later, I still love it. I've been incredibly successful at it, and I get to talk to interesting, smart people every day for my job. It's also going to help me with my 7-year-old son, because I'm going to have to do this job forever so I can help pay for his education when he's ready to go to university. So yeah, use the people around you that you trust most, whether it's a sibling, a friend, your parents, a mentor, to help guide you and to follow what your true path is, and you will be successful.
Thank you. We definitely have that here at the Mount with all of our professors. They truly care about our education. Glenn?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much more I can add to those points. They were great points, and I think that maybe I can just sort of echo some of the sentiments that we heard already, and say that if you are serious about finding somebody who can help you, be it a friend or a colleague wherever you work, or perhaps it's one of your parents or a relative, I think that you need to go in with the understanding that not only do you want them, but they have to want to help you, because not everybody's in that position in their journey, in their career, that they have the time, or maybe they just have other commitments at the moment. I think you need to find somebody that's motivated to help you, and I think that that's an important message, because I've spent a lot of time trying to get information and knowledge and guidance from people who I knew had the ability and the skill set, but maybe didn't necessarily have the time and not so much the interest, because I think that everybody wants to help. I don't think that there's anybody out there that isn't going to be willing to help you, but I think you just need to find the right fit, and that's an important part of the puzzle. For me, given that I have taken those lessons from what I've done, I would say that no, I wouldn't change anything. Given another opportunity or maybe some more time, maybe I would do some more international travel for work purposes. I think that the internship I did in Atlanta was extremely helpful in giving me perspective. I would probably try and go somewhere in Europe or South America. As far as other countries go, I mean, Brazil, Russia, India, China, really a lot of, the culture is different. There's a number of factors that would draw me to any of those locations, but yeah, that would be one of the things I would change. So I would encourage everybody to step outside of your comfort zone and not see your summer as a break, but as an opportunity to do something different and continue on what you've learned.
I just want to add on one quick thing about the mentorship, and when you're approaching someone, it can be really intimidating to be an undergraduate level student sitting across from someone who's in their 40s or 50s and they're a CEO or a CMO, but you don't have to do that. Where would you like to see yourself in 5 years? Go and talk to someone who's 5 years out from where you are right now, and 10 years and 15 years, because as Kelly had said, in 5 years, the jobs that you may be meeting, people who are currently in, may be completely gone. They may be completely different. The job that I currently do at the Mount didn't exist 8 years ago because there was no social media. I made the Mount's Twitter account in 2011. It's crazy to imagine a time when that didn't exist. So try not to put yourself across from someone who may be presenting you with a picture that may be unattainable or may be too intimidating. All you have to do is try and put yourself at your next step at whatever point that might be.
Perfect. Thank you, Lindsay. And that definitely kind of works, got what you're saying, and strolls into our next question, which is how can students improve their chances of landing a marketing job when they graduate? So Glenn, we'll start with you.
I just basically said one of the best things that you can do, and that's doing an internship, and I strongly believe that. I don't have the information in front of me, so I can't really cite any sources for you, as I know you guys are really used to doing that already. But I think it's something like 35 to 55,000 is the gap between people who do internships during their undergrad versus people who don't. So an internship should bring more to the table than just a traditional summer job. There should be structure, there should be projects, and don't accept an internship if you pursue one unless there is some kind of compensation involved. And I say that because if the company doesn't see you as being worthwhile, they're probably not going to give you work that's worthwhile. My internship, honestly, I was shocked by the amount that I got paid for it because I didn't really expect much. Not only did they give me a fair pay, but they paid for me to have accommodation. They got me around town when I needed to. It was phenomenal. So pursue those opportunities with the intent of coming home and bringing back what you learned, because you have 3 opportunities through your university career, because at the end of the 4th year, you should be going out into the workplace, and those 3 opportunities, even if you only take advantage of one of them, will better prepare you and likely help you find a position that's going to pay better. I think, especially in the interest of the conversation that we're having now in the context of marketing, do your research. 90% of marketing is research, and it's what, like 10% execution? Can I get some backup on this one, Professor Blotnicki?
Yeah.
Right? Roughly. It should be the same with the way that you approach your career. You should really be probably spending 90 or 95% of your time researching the companies that you want to, that you think you want to work with, because frankly, if you asked me probably 5-6 years ago what IHG as a company did, I wouldn't have known. And even going into it, I knew what it was, but the nature of their business is much different than what I would have expected. And I'll tell you this as well. As a branding company, their business model is hilarious because all they do is collect royalties. There are people that I met that were my age that were a year into their careers and they're making $85,000 a year because these companies have the money to pay it out, because all they're doing is collecting money for allowing other people to use this product that they've put together. Royalties are a beautiful thing, and in marketing, I think that that's something that everybody should research. But the other thing that I would say is network. Make sure that you network, have meaningful conversations, and if you're going to go somewhere and network, and you're with students, and you're at an event that is being put on for students, you're going to be there with your friends. Be a friend and walk away from your friend, because seriously, when people see a group of students standing around and they're there to talk to you, they're probably not going to give you that much time if you're not going to take it seriously. And those people are there because they want to talk to you, and you should be there because you want to talk to them. So network as much as you can and meet as many people as you can, because you'll be surprised how small the world really is. Even those of you who are studying internationally, I have some friends that were from the UAE, that were from Europe, Germany, all over the place while I went to the Mount, and I keep in contact with them. And it's you'd be surprised how often their name has come to me through a third party without even being aware of the connection. So networks are very important, and they'll make you stronger professionally, because I know some people that are not, how can I say this diplomatically, they're not the most adept at their careers, but they are extremely successful because they have extremely strong networks.
See, guys, we tell you to network all the time. Okay, next, Kelly.
Okay, I'm going to pull the mom out for a minute. Make really good social media choices. I'm sure you've heard this 1,000 times from your professors, from your parents, from your friends. What you post on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook can come back to haunt you, especially when you are trying to find a career. So please make good choices of what you're putting out there, because employers can access that information. And if they see you partying downtown with your friends, you might not be the first candidate that they're going to look at as a serious candidate, because they're hiring you to come into their organization and represent them. So I'm done with the mom thing. The other thing I suggest that you would do, we all have wonderful aspirations and dreams about going to work for Google or Apple or some of these humongous companies and making millions of dollars when we graduate. Some of you may, and I think that's wonderful if you get that opportunity. But there are a lot of startup companies, private businesses, local businesses here in town, companies that may not, like we said, may not even exist today, that will in a year or two. If you get an opportunity to work there, do it, because you're going to learn at every job that you have, whether you love it or not. But what you will learn is where your passion is. You will learn from people whether you enjoy this particular position, if the marketing that you're doing is the marketing that you want to be doing, because there's many varieties of types of marketing that you could be doing at different companies. What I do is very different than your traditional marketing company, because I don't actually produce the marketing materials that I sell, but I still have to market a brand. So please don't let an opportunity go by just because you may think, well, then it's not the best pay, but it's really not great. It's a startup company and it's only been on the ground a year or two. You may learn so much from them, and you might actually be a part of what makes that company grow. And lastly, what else was I going to say? Again, when you go out, and I mean, I'm sure you guys all know this, you're business students, you're smart people, but when you go looking for a job or you go out on interviews, be engaged, be professional, don't use your cell phones, don't go in there looking like you're going downtown, dress appropriately, talk to the employers like you would expect them to talk to you. It's all about respect both ways. I didn't know this job existed when I first started at Pearson 17 years ago. I went to university, I bought textbooks, I had no idea that there was a rep who actually went and sold these, and I love my job. And I still love it all these years later. So you just don't know what path you're going to end up in. So and this is my third career. So please just be open to trying new things and be bold and be brave and follow your passion.
Thank you. Those are really great tips. And Lindsay?
That's the beauty of going last. I can check off the things that they've already covered. The biggest piece of advice that I have for people sitting in the room is to be strategic. Everything that you do should matter. It should have a purpose. You have to treat yourself, even though you're a student, treat yourself like you would a client. You want to see yourself succeed. What does that look like? Getting a job, getting a network, having a brand that is exactly what you want it to be. How are you going to get there? By managing your accounts in a way that represents you how you want to be represented. Make a one-page strategic plan for yourself. It's the best thing you could ever do. So be strategic. Tactics like Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or a billboard or a bus shelter, tactics don't drive strategy. You have to do them because they fit. A number of times in the panel thus far, we've heard the word brand. Brand does not equal a logo. It's how you make people feel. It's what you put out in the world. So we're going to do a little exercise. I'm just throwing this in there.
No, go for it. That's great.
Everybody who has paper, write it down, and if you don't, take it home with you. When you go in for your co-op interviews or you go into an informational interview, picture yourself walking out of that room beaming, I rocked it, that was so great. What are the 3 things that you want the person who you left in that room to say about you? How do you want them to describe you? Is it professional? Is it put together? Is it strategic? You have to think about how you want to be described. Each of you has a personal brand already, whether you know it or not. And it takes work to cultivate that brand. So again, it goes back to being strategic. Brand is also about knowing what it means for an organization. So marketing, the marketing mix, communications, sales, it all has to go back into an organization's strategic plan. What does success mean for an organization? So the work that you do in marketing has to speak with key messages and the brand. What is that organization putting out there to the world? Marketing helps build awareness. Communication helps to engage people and get them excited, and hopefully transition that into a long-term, mutually beneficial relationship with customers, or in our case, with students, past, present, and future. So you really have to think about what is the so what of everything that you do. both for your organization, but also for yourself as a student. And that's my advice.
Yeah, if I could just add to that, I think another conversation that I had during the internship that I mentioned already was with another guy who's senior vice president of sales for the company, and one of the things that he left me with, and I think about it all the time, and I haven't mastered it at all because there's an air of consistency about it that I lack, and I think that we all share that in one way or another. It's just a human trait, but personal brand, it's so important to know who you are. Enough to say that this is who I want to be, and this is how I'm going to act in accordance with that. That carries through every facet of your life, including social media, as Kelly said, and everything else that Lindsay said as well. So, and the final thought that I had also is know the difference between motivation and discipline, because motivation is fickle. You may wake up one day and feel the energy to jump out of bed and get to class half hour early so you can review your notes or something. But there's a difference between wanting to and knowing that you have to and doing it because that's what you need to do. So find the discipline in your life to do what you want to do to achieve your goals, because motivation won't be with you every day. It's discipline that will get you there.
Perfect, thank you. We just have a little over 20 minutes, so we're going to open up to the audience for the Q&A period. So please raise your hand high in the air if you'd like to ask a question to the panel members.
So my question is to Glenn. You mentioned about having an internship, and when you say an internship, for me it's like a co-op. And correct me if I'm wrong. So I have a job, right? And you said it's different from a summer job. So what's make it different? Can you extend? Can you explain?
Well, I'll give you my experience. Okay, so like I said, when I was doing my undergrad, I was working a full-time job at a hotel. I worked at 3 different hotels during the time that I was in my undergrad, and it gave me the ability to pay the bills and do whatever. It wasn't really what I was hoping that I would be doing once I had my degree. So I think what would separate a job that you're doing while you're in school to a job that you're having after school would be the difference between an internship or just an everyday job. So what is your job currently? You know what, you don't have to answer that. Is it something that you think you'll continue doing when you're finished your education? Then I don't think that you need to worry about the distinction, because you're already there. You're just working on improving what your qualifications are on paper. And there's a lot of people that do that. For me, like I said, when I started my undergrad, I was 21. I was paired with a lot of other mature students. There were people that were in their 30s, 40s, 50s. There's people at many different stages of their life that are getting education, and I don't think that you need to take what I'm saying as gospel for necessarily the right path, because the internship was great for me, but if you're already where you're at and you're happy with that, and the education is going to help bolster your future within that organization, then stay right where you are and just keep working hard.
I have a question. How many people who are sitting in this room know exactly the job that they want when they leave? So some. I'm impressed.
Shout it out.
I had no idea.
Shout it out. What do you want to do? What was that? Sales? So what draws you to sales? What draws you to sales? So engaging with people? Okay. Yeah. So you're continuing on that path now still? You're out and talking to people, going to networking events, and are you doing sales now?
So for people who don't know what they want to do, I'm going to talk to you for 2 seconds, because it's okay. to not know for sure. When you graduate, it doesn't matter if you've had 6-week co-ops, 3-month co-ops, 3-month or 2-year internships. Take every opportunity and think about what you want to get out of it. Because you will face a lot of opportunities, contract work. Everybody know what that is? You'll see kind of term postings. Some people shy away from taking contracts or terms because it's a short period of time and you want the job. But you need the skills. And if you don't know where you're going necessarily, which is, again, it's okay, those are really great opportunities to get in a place and understand what that actually looks like for you, and then you get to leave because it's over. Or, they may say you can stay, and then it's your choice. So don't shy away just because of the timeline or what that might look like. Every short-term anything has something to offer you if you're willing to take it on.
Great, thank you. And does anyone else have any questions? Oh,
You got it here with
perfect.
the mic.
So as an international student here at the Mount, I'm a little bit curious about the job market in Halifax. What do you think that it's the possibilities right now, like not in 5 years or like just right now? What do you think there are the possibilities in Halifax for the job market?
I think there's a lot of opportunity in Nova Scotia, or in Atlantic Canada, period. But I think that it's incredibly competitive industry, especially here in Halifax because there are so many universities. So personally, if you can use recruiters as a tool to help you to find your career choice, I really highly recommend that because they narrow down the search for you. It might be a position for a marketing position that has 500 applicants, but they can narrow it down to 6 qualified people, and you might be one of those 6 that get interviewed. So your chances have just gotten that higher of getting that position. So from my personal experience, that's what I use all your recruiters. They don't cost you anything. Companies pay them to find qualified candidates.
Drive down the road. You don't even see all of the marketing and advertising. It's noise, it's everywhere. So think of yourself in terms of how many other graduates will be sending their resumes, and a table full of them, hundreds per job. How are you going to rise above to really stand out? And that's really the point. There's a ton of opportunity, but for you, it's not about the opportunity proper. It's about what opportunity is out there for you and what your experiences will make you the most successful at.
Can I add one more thing? There's a real merge between sales and marketing, and a lot of companies will be looking for a marketing or a business development manager or a marketing person, but it's going to come across as, if you go to Career Beacon or LinkedIn or any of these sites that post jobs, you're going to see a lot of looking for a sales and marketing person. Be really clear as to what you want to do. Do you want to be a salesperson or do you want to do marketing? And if you aren't sure, try it out and see, because each company markets differently, each industry markets very differently, and you might be doing a sales role, you might be actually doing more marketing material and doing inside sales, but really pushing out marketing pieces for that organization. It just depends on the company, but don't shy away from those kind of roles, because like she said, you're gonna learn at any opportunity that you get, whether that fits your passion or whether it's not meant for you, but you're still gonna come up with some skills that you can put on a resume that are gonna look good for your next employer.
And how many PR students are in the room right now? There are some, I know. They're all over there. Spread out next time. As much as sales and marketing has been merged, you'll also see a bucket, which is communications and marketing. So my office is communications, marketing, and student recruitment. And if you just, again, rise above to the so what, everything that you do in paid and unpaid marketing to raise awareness, you have communications and you have print materials and you have advertisements and you have events and you have all of these different vehicles of communication. They fit across every organizational unit, from recruiting to HR, financial services, they all count. But sales and marketing, as much as marketing and communications, they all have to speak to the same organizational brand and goal. So again, I'm a PR communications person, but I'm also, and I love marketing, but it's part of the journey of making yourself known to a prospective customer or client, and then bringing them in and building that relationship so it's fruitful for your organization. It's all part of the same journey. So just be aware of that when you're out there figuring out what particular skill set or activities you want to see yourself doing.
Yeah, and coming back to the job market in Halifax, there's a great documentary about marketing and advertising called Art and Copy. If you haven't seen it, I would recommend watching it because it's fantastic. Mm-hmm. But one of the beginning people featured in this documentary is this guy who puts up billboards on the side of the highway. And he and his family have been doing it for several decades. I think his grandfather started doing it in the 20s during the Great Depression. And nobody in his family has ever been unemployed. They found a niche for themselves, but there's a lot to be said about that. I mean, no matter what the economic conditions are, there's going to be a requirement for people to be aware of the products that a company are selling, particularly during difficult economic times. So there's that. Aside from that, I mean, there's a number of positive economic changes happening here. We've got the shipbuilding, there's offshore oil exploration, but I think that we need to look at alternative markets as well. I mean, I think of innovators like Elon Musk, who's this guy who is the co-founder of PayPal. Okay, so you think this guy is going to go into banking or something after he sells it off? No, he went into alternative energies. He founded Tesla Motors. He is one of the co-founders of Solar City. The guy is a modern day industrialist, and he really has created this market for himself. And when the auto industry was failing in the US, he went into California, bought $1 billion Toyota factory for $1 million, and he's now got the largest manufacturing facility in California for battery operated cars. He's also going to have the largest solar manufacturing facility in Buffalo, New York. So I'm not going to say that any of you are ready to open up an enormous auto manufacturing facility here, but what I'm saying is that there's opportunity out there, and if you can see an opportunity, I would highly recommend that you try and seize it for yourself and not necessarily just rely on an employer that's here already. You can create opportunities for yourself here at home, and this is one of the best places to live, especially in the tourism sector. I can say that with great confidence. We have a lot to be proud of here.
Thank you. We still have time for a couple more questions, if anyone has one. Oh, we have a question down here. Karen, Ariel.
I was actually just wondering, this is for Glenn, I was wondering what the name of that book was. I had missed it when you said that, and I was wondering why that book is, what that book is about. Why is it so important for us to read?
Well, as a sales and marketing person, I don't have a lot of, I don't have a great deal of patience for extremely long-winded technical books. Now, saying that, Brand Revitalization was the name of the book. Larry Light is the author. If you forget that, you will probably remember that he was the CMO of McDonald's. It's an easy connection. I'm sure you'll be able to find it that way if you Google it. But the book is very concise. It's written in very clear language, and it gives you a fairly clear guide about how you can rebuild a brand. And it's just a really interesting read. I can't say enough about it. I think that the best proof for you is to just pick it up, because honestly, like I said, it's about 200 pages. The font's enormous. It's a very easy, light read.
Thank you. And does anyone else have any questions?
I actually have one, and it's probably not a popular question, but here's my question. From a faculty perspective, we know that often marketing students are not really crazy about accounting. They're not crazy about the numbers. And as faculty, we keep trying to find ways to integrate that through the curriculum so people come out really being comfortable with it. So you're all in different types of positions, but to what extent do you use financial information, and how do you have to use it?
Who wants to start?
I just want to know.
I'll say that I'll say that here you have the choice, okay? You can pick your courses. They'll give you the structure and the guidelines, but when you're working, you won't have a choice. I suggest that you go out and you learn as much as you can about as much as you can, because frankly, the financial side of things, like I was saying earlier, right now I'm working closely with development in our organization for new builds. Obviously, numbers are very important when people are bringing millions of dollars to the table. So the financial component is still something that I'm not extremely strong with, but I'm learning. Had I taken more time and had the discipline to study finance with the interest, or at least the attention that I gave to marketing, then I'd probably be a little better off now. My suggestion is do yourselves a favor and learn more than the surface level that you're required to learn. Get a little bit deeper. You don't have to make it your major or anything like that, but even if you minored in accounting or finance with a marketing major, I guarantee you're going to go into the job market looking stronger than any of the other candidates that are likely going to have marketing with management. That's not a bad combination either. That's exactly what I had. It's not to say that one is better than the other, but it'll differentiate you and it'll give you a different set of tools to work with.
I'll jump in because I graduated with an arts degree in political science. And then after my first job, I landed and I was doing events. And so as an event producer, I worked with clients. I came up with the guest experience plan, and it has a bottom line. What does that cost at an event? And how many people are we banking on getting there? I had zero experience in working with spreadsheets. I'm hoping all of you know how to create a budget in a spreadsheet, because your clients will call you and say, well, we don't have 60% of the tickets sold. What does my bottom line look like today? And then 3 hours, they sell 10 tickets and they want to know what the updated bottom line looks like. And so get to know what that might look like. I use budget tools, spreadsheets every day now, because when you manage a marketing campaign or a marketing budget, you have to develop line by line, where is all of the money going, and what percentage is out of home versus digital versus social? What's that marketing mix balance? And so the biggest thing I ever did was reconcile a $2.2 million budget. And the binder was this thick, but I was so proud. and so, identify those things that you don't necessarily have right now, and really dig in, like Glenn said, and work on those things, because those will be the value add skills that you bring to your future employers.
Yeah, I'm coming from a sales perspective. So if any of you are familiar with this industry, I deal with numbers every day. I manage a $4 million territory. That's my baby. I have to grow that every year. If I don't grow it, I don't make a bonus. When it comes to December 31st, I am nickel and dime in every single textbook, every single ebook, every single code, ancillary, whatever you guys have bought from me, because it determines whether or not I get a bonus or not. So I need to know throughout the year where I'm at. Not only myself, but our organization has to report to shareholders. They invest money into our company to keep producing resources so that we can sell them to students. And it's not just you, it's K through 20. We educate and we re-educate people who have come out of industry and have to go back and change because they've been let go, or their company's gone, or their position has been disappeared. And they have to come back and re-educate to do something else for a living. So, I'm constantly looking at numbers, and I have an English degree. I studied dead poets. I knew nothing about math or personal finance or any of it until I got into this line of work. So yes, it may be and painful for you, but I guarantee you're going to use it in your everyday life, whether it's just paying your mortgage and making sure that your bills are all covered, or whether it's not determining whether you're going to Cuba next year with your family or not because you had a great year in sales. You need to know this stuff.
Another piece of number that I'm hoping most of you now will understand is part of the social media. It's not just about a post, it's about what types of posts are most successful. Insights on Facebook, it's data. And so part of my job, once a month, I probably spend 8 hours in Google Analytics. Everybody know what Google Analytics is? Raise your hands, anybody? If you're in marketing, you're going to create assets that are used as advertisements. And you might create 5 different versions of an ad to be sent out on a digital network. And each of those has their own unique identifying URL. Because at the end of the day, you want to know what one performed the best. And what one brought the most eyeballs, but what ones brought the most qualified prospects to your site. So yes, budgets are great and spreadsheets are great, but it's really being able to understand numbers and data and bring them up to say, what's the so what of what I'm looking at? You know, to your knowing what books you're selling, what percentage are ebooks versus hard copy. So bring yourself up to speed on analytics, because they play a very big part of marketing nowadays.
Thank you. And does anyone else have any questions? Okay, I actually have a question. So we're currently living in the era of social media. In your opinion, which social media channel do you find the most useful for marketers? I'll give you a minute to think about it.
It depends. It depends on who you're trying to reach. It depends on your audience. So for the PR folks up here, you always have to know your audience. And marketers have to know their audience too. It's not the spray and pray approach. You don't just put it out there and hope that something comes back to you in the form of a sold book. You have to be strategic. So spray and pray, not a good approach. You really do have to nail down what it is you want. What's the conversion? A sold book, a booked hotel room, a new student. We want more of you because you're great. You're part of something big. But what does that look like in terms of social media? Well, a one platform solution is never going to be the best solution, because we don't just talk to you, we want to talk to your parents. We want to get in front of and raise awareness amongst guidance counselors, and it's not all about social media. So we can create different versions of ads that are seen by only people who are in high school, and then only people who are age 45 and over. You can't speak to different people in the same way. The message has to be curtailed to that demographic, to that audience. I was reading an article earlier this morning. It was published on the IABC, the International Association of Business Communicators. They published an article about the trend toward using the voice of your audience in your marketing efforts. It's not about what we have to say, it's about making sure it's what they want to hear. It's what they're looking for. So Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, we do not use Pinterest, not interested. But it's not what people are out there looking for. So it really goes back to what the goal is. What's that conversion? And most people would say that the Mount shouldn't even be using Facebook, because young people don't use Facebook anymore. And I know by my analytics and by my insights that I bring 120,000 people to our website from Facebook every year. From stories, sharing stories. So I know that it's not true. You can't always make an assumption, because people who come to the Mount are different, they're special. So you have to do what works for your audience. You can't develop a blanket approach.
Thank you, great answer.
Agree with that. Oh, I was just going to say, how many of you have ever seen this stuff? This is print stuff that I produce, but have any of you students ever seen anything to do with mastering biology, mastering chemistry, my business lab, my marketing lab, my OB lab? Any of you ever seen any of those brands?
Couple.
You have?
Yeah.
Excellent. I don't market to you. I wish I did, but I don't. Publishers don't do that. We market to educators. Yeah. But all of these tools are available on our website, and what I'm finding is being mostly useful now to your generation and getting access to students, because obviously there's privacy issues. I can't just get your email address and start sending you stuff, and I wouldn't do that anyway, but there's legal reasons. We do a lot on YouTube, and that tends to be where students are getting information on our products, or seeing other, because all of our products are written by faculty. Our materials are produced by professors, instructors, college graduates, PhD students, researchers, scientists. So you can YouTube any of these core courses that you're in and find either a speaker who can talk knowledgeable about it, the author of the book itself, or the resources. When I send information to a faculty member because their students can't get online for some reason, now I'm sending YouTube videos. Did you check your browser? Did you do this? Did you turn your pop-up blockers off? Simple solutions, but because it takes me so long to type that in an email, I can do a YouTube video and send it out to the masses in my territory. So that's how I'm using social media. I have a Twitter account. I don't tweet because I really don't know what to say. Yeah, I don't, because it's very, what you put out there, even if it states on your social media page that it's your sole opinion, can affect, once it's out there in cyberspace, it's out there. So you have to be very conscientious of what you're tweeting, what you're putting on social media, etc. So I sit and I think before I post anything, because I don't want the controversy to come back, backlash, and affect my career. So YouTube is my thing.
Thank you. Oh, go ahead, sorry.
I don't really know which platform is the best. I think that if you look at when Facebook launched their initial public offering, the response by the market said a lot about how they could monetize their business and what they really themselves understood about it. They didn't know what they had. They still don't really. Twitter, I mean, it's fantastic. A lot of people use it. It's great for communicating. But Twitter is still in the same place as Facebook in that they don't really know what their business is. I mean, they don't know how to monetize it and how to aggregate data effectively enough yet. They're still learning. So social media is fickle, and I think that if just on the point that Lindsay made about having your audience carry the conversation for you, these mediums are very good in that capacity. But one of the platforms that I like using the most is Reddit, and maybe it's the anonymity of it or something else entirely. I don't really know, but I like Reddit for the community, I guess, the content, a number of things. But there is a great case in point about an audience carrying the message for the company or individual that wants them to carry it for them. It's obscene what you see happen on that face or on that page sometimes, because websites crash because of Reddit. Amazon will sell out of stuff because of Reddit. It's crazy, and it's just because whatever hit the front page that day. And you see more and more organizations going to that to have AMAs and discuss. For anybody who doesn't know, Reddit, an AMA is an Ask Me Anything. Bill Gates has done them. You've got Barack Obama did one. It's a really interesting platform for having conversations, but if they can figure out how to monetize that, I mean, I'll probably stop using it, frankly. But yeah, that's one that really plays into your point of having the consumer carry the message. So I would say I use Reddit more than anything right now. I don't know how that would work for me personally in my life, but there it is.
And I think too for you, where you're now looking at what kind of career opportunities are going to be coming available to you, make use of some of the sites like LinkedIn. When it was back in my day, it was monster.com. I don't even know if that still exists, but that's where you could post your resume, and prospective employers would go there to see who was there. Now it's LinkedIn. And I like LinkedIn because it's a professional site. There's no fluff. I have people looking at my website or my page from competing companies, which is always interesting. It's like, who's going to chase after me next? So if you want to use social media to benefit you, to help you with your career, that's a site that I would recommend personally.
I agree. It's your online resume, and people will creep you and try and poach you. It will happen.
Yeah, and if you get international people requesting you for some company you've never heard of, Google the company first before you accept, because any social media, there's, like Lindsay said, there's creepers, and you don't want to be giving your personal information to anybody that you're not comfortable with, but local businesses will look at that. I have my best friend's a recruiter and owns her own company in New Brunswick, and she uses LinkedIn constantly when she's looking for prospective clients, or when she's trying to fill positions for prospective clients, so it's a great tool.
Yeah, and I would say if you're going to ask people that you don't know to connect with you, don't have a shotgun approach. And by that I mean don't just hit every possible contact that you can. Be specific. Find people that that have similar interests to you, because there is a section on LinkedIn where you can fill in your interests or whatever your experience and qualifications are. Maybe it's finding that person that has you know, the 5 years out, like we were saying earlier, or the 10 years out. They're where you want to be, and don't just send them the message that says I'd like to connect with you, because that's so impersonable. It's just add a couple lines, take an extra couple minutes, and instead of adding 20 people, maybe add 4 or 5 and send them a personalized message, and make sure that they see the value in connecting with you.
Because your activities on LinkedIn are public. So if I get a request from a student and there's a personalized message and it says, "Hi, Lindsay, I'm a third-year student, I'm really interested in," and they fill in the blank, "I'd love 30 minutes of your time," no problem. I'll have coffee. I love coffee. I will have coffee with anybody, anytime, any day. But if I get a rando request from someone and there's no personalized message, and I look at their profile and see that they've recently become connected to 50 people, I know that they're doing the shotgun approach. So again, just be very aware, be self-aware of what you're putting out there on those platforms.
Oh, thank you guys very much. So on behalf of myself, the students, and the Mounts Business and Tourism Department, we thank you guys for your participation today. Thank you. Students waiting to get your learning passport stamp, please stay in your seats, and we'll come around and stamp them, okay? Thank you.